Hey guys, the fly we're going to be tying today is a midge larva. Hook size I'm going to be using a size 18 reverse bend hook. You can use anywhere from a 16 to a 22. The hook I really enjoy, the right size for me is probably about an 18, give or take. So we're going to use extra small silver wire. And then we are going to use some red rib vinyl. What this does, this gives kind of a glossy transparent look to the fly, makes it look a little more realistic. We're going to be tying a red fly, so obviously we'll want to use some red thread. I've got some red marabou here. This is going to be tied on for the tail, give some action and some movement to the fly, catch fish's attention a little bit. Also to bring some attention to the fly, this red dubbing. It's got kind of a little sparkle hue to it, help bring more attention to the bug. Well, first off, I want to start by tying my thread on. In dressing the hook, I like to put my thread on about halfway down the hook. I really want to make sure I give myself enough room on these smaller flies. When I first started tying, I never would give myself enough room to tie off at the end. I'd spend all this time tying a great fly and wouldn't leave myself enough room at the end to tie off and end up going over the eye of the hook and couldn't get my line through it, so basically I had a wasted fly. What I'm going to do here is rip off a couple strands of this marabou. One thing with the marabou, after you rip it off, they start going all over the place. It's not a big deal. We can cut it up with scissors, do that kind of thing to trim it up. Try and do the best you can, but you pinch it here on top. What I like to do is pinch the thread in between my fingers for the first wrap and then pull straight down. What that does, it doesn't allow the marabou to wrap around and start spinning around your hook. But we'll cut off this excess here. Cut it at an angle. What that'll do is you're tying it down. It gives you kind of a sloped groove rather than a sharp edge. Makes it look a little more realistic. What I'm doing now with my fingers, just kind of ripping off, giving myself probably about, I don't know, half the length, 3/4 of the length of the hook of a tail there. I like to rip it off rather than cutting a straight square edge. Gives it more of a realistic look, I feel. Plus it's a little bit easier, so it makes it nice. We're going to tie in the silver wire now. You don't have to do this step. I would recommend having this fly with and without the silver wire. I learned of the fly originally without the silver wire. I ended up adding it on to kind of give me an effect, kind of like your zebra midge will have. I've caught a lot of fish on a zebra midge, and so I thought this would be a good add to it, and it really has been. It's done really, really well for me. I'm going to tie on this red vinyl rib. Again, we're leaving ourselves about a 1/4 length of the hook still, so we have time or enough room to dub and tie off and not get too close. And with wrapping it, we're just going to go around side by side, keep it real close, real tight wraps. And you see where that marabou was cut off, it's going to form real nice. There's not going to be a big ledge or drop off or anything like that. It's just going to go fairly smooth over. And once we get to the end here, we're going to start going back up, but leaving a gap in between. This is going to give kind of the imitation of segments, give you a 3D image for the fish to look at for segmentations on the larva. Get this up here and tie it off. What I really like about this red vinyl rib here is its glossy effect really makes the bug look transparent, which is a lot like an actual larva or bug in its larva stage. They've got kind of a transparent look to them. We'll do a little half hitch here, just make sure everything stays nice and tight. A lot of tires I've watched, they'll half hitch after every step, and on these little bugs it just takes up too much room, too much time, so I just half hitch right in the middle. So we'll take our extra small wire, just wrap it around. What I'm doing, I'm going in between each of those grooves on the way back up. And what this kind of does, same appearance as your zebra midge, just helps segment the bug, make it hopefully look more realistic, get the fish's attention, and hopefully land you some nice fish. And once we get to the end here, we'll tie it off. One thing for you guys out here, don't ruin your scissors. I've heard a lot of people tell you just buy an extra pair of scissors to cut wire and things like that. Don't worry about ruining scissors, getting an extra pair or anything like that. Just once you get it tied down, pinch kind of close, hold on to your fly, just twist it a little bit just like this here, and it'll come right off. It's really pretty effortless, saves your scissors. Anyway, now I've got my red dubbing here. That's probably too much. I'll see once we get it on my thread. You really don't need a whole lot. You're only going to do about 4 or 5 wraps around. I've got a little much, so let me take some of that off here. I've heard of people putting wax on the thread to help it stick a little bit better. I've never really tried it. I don't know that I would necessarily try it on a wet fly, maybe on a dry fly. You might want to try it a little bit. You might want to give it a shot there, but on a wet fly, I don't know that you want it to repel water at all. So I wouldn't try it on this fly, but maybe on some of your dries. We'll whip finish it off, and what I like to do for my final whip finish is take some of my head cement, throw it on the thread, and I'll do one more whip finish. The reason I like doing this, if you have peacock curl or any type of dubbing or anything up at the front of your hook, when you go to glue it or head cement or your varnish or whatever it is that you're using to keep your thread on there, a lot of times it'll get into your dubbing or your pheasant tail feathers or whatever it is that you've got on the front and really mats it down and takes away from the effect of the dubbing. So I like to varnish up the thread. It'll help it stick and look realistic still. Just trimming off some of the excess here, making it look nice, and that's basically all there is to it, guys. Coming up here is a list of the different materials that you're going to need. Also, check out our website, www.easternidahoflyfishing.com. Check out some other videos that we've got of tying flies and that kind of thing. Give your input on what flies are working. It's really a website made for fishermen here, so give us your input. And here's one of my nice rainbows that I caught on this fly just a couple weeks ago, so good luck.